Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 132 for January 20th, 2015. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of this podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burndo1, the special guest coordinator.
I hate that voice you put up, by the way.
It's his, soothing midnight
Who are you? I don't know who's talking.
It's my radio voice.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I am the media manager of the podcast, and this week I will be editing.
You are the editing?
I am the editing. No, I will be editing.
So you're just going to be the transitions? Just like a faces?
We're all the editing,
And
Joel.
I'm Atmospark. I'm the questions.
Oh my god. Alright, well...
You don't want to know the answer, but I'm the question.
Shut up! Your time's over.
Wow.
It's come and gone, my friend. Alright, so welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We're in a weird mood today, so this should be fun. Yeah,
Gee,
I
I
don't
wonder
think we really
why.
have a lot. I don't think we really have a lot to talk about. So I guess the only thing I have to say is and interview.
And now, interview.
Burnt. Burnt.
Yes.
Stop giggling like a school horse.
I have the Go Axle picture on my monitor. It's like this is how
And
we're
now, are we imagining...
this is how we're
I'm now
doing this.
Oh my god.
Burn horse in a schoolgirl costume with the shirt and the skirt and stuff. That's a thing.
No, actually, it's not. It's not yet.
No.
Could be a
Well,
thing.
give it time.
All right.
By the time this comes out, it'll be a thing.
In other horse news, we do have a very special guest today, and
Horse
we
guest.
do have an interview today. This week on the podcast, we actually have a good friend of ours, I would like to say, who we've met many times at conventions. This week on the podcast, we have, I believe his name is Lunagod XXX.
That's right.
I think I've made that joke before, but it's still a great
You
joke,
have.
and I love it. But we have DarkFlame75,
Yep,
right?
on DeviantArt.
On
Yep.
DeviantArt. Or
Well,
Luna
it's-
Doodle, as
it's-
some might know him.
It's wonderful to have you on the show, so thanks for coming on. I'm sorry that Burned is such a tease and takes about 3 minutes to actually say your name.
I can't help it.
But this
Cheez-Its make me
happens
squirrely.
So it was you with the chips.
Yeah, it was him. So, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I apologize already.
In advance.
In advance. No, not in advance. That's the sad thing. It's not even in advance at this point. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No problemo.
So, first off,
Yeah.
we ask this question of every single guest that comes on here. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, which, I mean, if you know Luna, you obviously know you. Who are you? What do you do? And
What brings you here?
Well,
Who's your daddy?
I'm as they've said, I'm DarkFlame. That should be evident at this point. I have a presence on DeviantArt and Tumblr mostly. On DeviantArt, I'm DarkFlame75. On Tumblr, I'm DarkFlame7. Yes, I know it's confusing. I'm sorry. I also have a couple other Tumblr blogs. Luna Doodle, where I draw Luna every single day for almost a year now. Almost a year with no days missed, pretty much. That's been tough, but it's been fun. And then I also run the Tumblr blog Student of the Night about Scootaloo as a bat pony.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this, I mean, let's talk first of all about your Luna Doodle account, because it really has sparked a lot of different other Tumblr accounts, at least here at the CHC, because I know that Burned and Ted both saw what you were doing and kind of took that and tried to do that themselves.
I failed.
We're not going to talk about
But,
art.
what inspired you to start doing an art piece a day specifically? I mean, we can talk about Luna later, but what inspired you to do one art piece per day?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So it was something that I kind of wanted to do for a long time, and I remember the first time the thought came to me was 2011, whenever it was I got my first tablet. I remember getting my tablet, and I told myself, if I get this tablet, I have to draw every day with it, otherwise it's a waste. I didn't draw every day with it. Not even close. So I tried to do it that time. It didn't work. And then I think a year, 2 years later, I tried to start another blog where I actually posted them daily. That only worked for about a week. It didn't go so well. Then, months later, I think it was in May last year, so pretty soon a year, I was sitting down and I was kind of bored and I just drew a Luna. And I was like, oh, this is fun. It was like a 5-minute doodle of Luna. And the next day I did it again. And then I did it again the next day. And I went, you know what? I can make this a thing. And then I did. And I haven't stopped.
And now you're known as Luna God.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So why is Luna the best princess?
Well,
Please go on.
Yeah.
Celestia and Luna are both best princess, but I personally prefer Luna. That's an important
Okay, did you
distinction.
scrub? Princess Pepplehorse.
Banished.
But no, I'm always been kind of a night person and a bit of a, not like a lone wolf, but I like the solitude of night, and I like what Luna represents, so I like Luna.
Cool.
She's also adorable.
She's very adorable, yes. And she's fun to draw, very fun to draw.
Yeah.
I've not
So-
gotten tired of drawing her every day.
Speaking of drawing Luna, when we went to Everfree Northwest last year, we actually got the chance to meet you and talk to you, and we did an interview with you, and then you sat down with us and you basically taught us how to draw Luna, which was really cool.
Yep.
So thank you for that, first of all. Second of all, if you haven't seen that yet, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, Cutie Art Crusaders on YouTube. And,
Oh, we doing bugs already?
No.
Oh.
So yeah, thanks for teaching us how to draw Luna, because I think that really helped at least me in kind of figuring out some pony anatomy, and I hope that inspired other people too.
Well, any way to get more people drawing Luna.
Well, I think, for those of us who weren't there in the moment, like, can you describe drawing Luna, and is it an easy process? Is it a short process? I personally have not seen the video because I'm an awful person. So for all of the other awful people out there, was it an easy thing to do? Is it like a lot of steps? Is she a really complicated pony to draw?
Well, the thing is, after having drawn her every day for so long, I've gotten some parts of, like, the complexities down to muscle memory. Like, I remember I struggled a lot with the little hair twist on the top of her head, but now I can do that in usually 1 or 2 tries. The most fun thing for me is actually drawing her mane and tail, because it's just swirlies, and yeah, it's easy if you let yourself have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think it is with the whole thing. It's easy if you let yourself have fun with it. The wings are usually what I struggle with the most, but that's because they're wings. So
Right.
How do they work?
Yeah. Wings, what are they? Yeah. That's really cool. And basically, when you taught us how to draw Luna, you did mention the hair foop and just to kind of go wild with the mane and tail. So
have fun with it, and it'll look
Yeah.
fun.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
what inspired you, and what really motivated you this time around? Because you tried it a couple times before. You tried where you draw every single day. Was it just like you finally got going, and once you got on a roll, or what was different about this blog in particular?
It's a good question. Well, the first time I was just starting out, I'd never done digital art before, so I was really new to the whole thing. I had no habits built in or anything, so it probably just didn't work that time, The second time, I'm not really sure. I didn't even focus it on ponies that time. Like, I think one time I painted my Super Nintendo controller or something. And I think part of what it might be is that I focused it on something that I actually do like very much. But at the same time, I kind of do wish it was a little more expanded so I could draw other things.
Yeah.
As much as
It's
I
kinda
like
crazy.
Luna.
You gotta start drawing other things and then just put like a tiny Luna on top of it.
Just always have Luna in there.
still
Well,
fits
I
the
thought
rules.
I thought about branching out and drawing other Lunas, like Luna from Sailor Moon.
Getting off on a
just drew the-
technicality, I see.
Technicalities.
Technicalities? Sorry, that was bad. Luna's a cat.
Ow.
Oh my goodness. So I'm noticing as I'm scrolling through the Tumblr here that some days you've got kind of like these smaller, kind of messier sketches, and some days you've got almost full pieces. Is it just depending on what you're feeling like or how much time you have during the day?
That's part of it. Usually the smaller sketches are when it's 5 a.m. and I go, oh yeah, I haven't done yesterday's Luna Doodle yet and I haven't gone to sleep. I'll just quick draw something and then go to sleep. So usually it has to do with how much I procrastinate, to be honest. But not always. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood and it's like, I don't want to draw, but I'm going to put the pen down and something's going to happen. Something happened. I don't care. Just post it. Be done.
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. Other times it's like, I have other things I need to work on. I don't have time to dedicate to this Luna Doodle, so I'll just quickly throw something together and then work on the other things I need to do, you know? But sometimes it's like, I want to work on this for 6 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's like your range of time that you spend on a typical Luna Doodle?
That's a pretty big range. It can be anywhere from 5 minutes to, I think the longest one was around 10 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was around 10 hours.
Wow.
And then I came
That's
back
impressive.
to it months later to revise it a little bit.
Yeah.
So even longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you seem to have a lot of different contributors too to the blog. So you've obviously inspired some people and occasionally you post their art as well, right?
Yeah, I'm not the only one that posts to Luna Doodle. I'm the only one that does it daily at this point. But there are, I think, 2 or 3 other artists who still post somewhat regularly. And the submission box is always open. And most of the time I will post whatever people submit to it. There are times that I have to decline because it's like, that's not Luna or, you know, whatever.
Right.
I have gotten that before. But generally, yeah, I post other people's Luna Doodles very much.
So now, would you accept a Luna that's not a Princess Luna?
I think.
Maybe. We haven't gotten to that point. It's unexplored territory.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do you find
believe-
time to do like other art pieces then? If you're spending so much time on this Luna Doodle, but you're also keeping up different things like your other Tumblrs and occasionally you do non-Luna pieces on your DeviantArt.
Yeah. Well, part of it has been school. I've done a lot of school projects because I'm in a lot of art classes at school. So obviously I have to do those, and those don't involve Luna. But I guess to be honest, a lot of it is a lot of the time I'm not in the mood to do any art, and I wouldn't be doing anything if I wasn't doing the Luna Doodle, you know?
Right.
So it's less like a working on something different and more just like work on something, you know? But it is a struggle. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll have something I want to work on, and I go, oh wait, I need to do my Luna Doodle first, and then I work on that, and then all my creative energy's gone, and it's like, well, at least I made that. You know, that's good enough, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
As someone who lives with somebody who does a daily doodle as well, I completely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you sit down and you have a plan for a 15-minute experiment, and then 5 hours later you realize, oh, I'm out of energy now.
Yep.
That happened a few days ago for me.
It's that last 10 minutes where you go to bed. Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, let's flip over to your other Tumblr, or one of your other Tumblrs, the Student of the Night.
Right.
Which is, like you said, Bat Pony Scootaloo.
Right.
And I guess she learns from Luna particularly, and
Let me phrase that a little bit better.
I'm sorry.
So much like we started off the show with, who are you and like who are you and what are you doing on the show? More like, for people who haven't read through this comic before or have no idea, when they hear Student of the Night, they don't really know what we're talking about. Can you describe to them what exactly it is?
Yeah, well, it's a blog that Scootaloo's a bat pony, but I've said that already. And she is Luna's student, as the name would suggest. Without spoiling anything, because it's still a little bit of a mystery, something happened in the past that Luna had to make Scootaloo a bat pony to save her life. And she has sort of, quote-unquote, adopted her to keep her close and keep her safe in the meantime while she tries to find a more permanent solution.
Aw, it's adorable.
Cool. So how long have you been doing this for?
I started it on Halloween Day, just over a year ago.
Oh, okay. So for about a year, and you regularly take asks and things like that.
There have been some short hiatuses, there was one where I think I went a month and a half without posting, but yeah, I post somewhat regularly, and I'm trying to get more regular.
What was your inspiration for this?
Actually, that's I have a good answer for that. I was
It's better than
a
the
lot
bad
of the time
one.
it's like, well, usually the answer is I don't know, I just drew something. But this time I was in a Skype chat and some people were talking about fanfics and stuff, and someone mentioned I've never seen anyone draw Scoodle as a bat pony, at least not well. And so I read that and I went, huh, okay, challenge accepted. So I drew Scoodle as a bat pony. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And also, I should back up a little bit. I've been wanting to do a Tumblr blog for a very long time. It looked like a lot of fun, but I could never come up with an idea that really stuck. So I drew this, and it actually looked kind of nice. And so I worked on it some more, and it finished, and people liked it, and I liked how it looked. And the idea just kept going through my head. It was like, this could work. I can make a story out of this. This works, you know. And then, like a month or 2 months later, I finally launched it.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
been-
so you kind of had a whole bunch of comics put together before you actually started posting?
No,
Or-
actually, I did spend about a month like planning it out and thinking about it because I didn't want to just like flounder and figure it out as I go along. Which
Right.
that was kind of a good plan in hindsight. It's complicated. It's hard to start a blog. But no, I didn't actually have pre-prepared comics. I just had the announcement thing and then I answered a question.
Okay,
I see.
that's cool.
I see.
Hmm.
So talking a little bit about the medium in which that you're posting to, you know, I don't think we've explored too much. Oftentimes, because our show is kind of centralized around art that we find on DeviantArt, that's kind of our center location, and that's how we find and meet a lot of people, although we do definitely peruse other sites. What advantages do you think Tumblr provides over a site like DeviantArt for these kinds of things?
For these things specifically?
Yeah. Well, your Luna Doodle, your regular posts, that kind of thing.
Well, I think there's a difference. I think there are a lot of different types of Tumblrs, and that's more so than on DeviantArt even. And I think Student of the Night is a very different type of Tumblr from my art blog, my DarkFlame7, which I guess I'll start with my art blog. I think the benefit of an art blog is that it's more personal with your audience. Whereas on DeviantArt, you post something and people leave comments and you can reply. That's nice. But on Tumblr, there's something about it that it feels like you're actually communicating directly with the content creator somehow. And I really like that. I like that direct communication with the audience. It's a little hard to put into words, but I think part of it is the ask system, and being able to send someone a message that they can directly answer immediately. And I don't know, there's something about it. It just feels a lot more personal to me, and I really like that. But for a story-type blog, I'm not really sure. I guess the ask system is part of it, definitely. Being able to receive the asks and let those direct the story. But beyond that, it's really just preference, I think.
Well, I feel like it's also the interface. So with like a story blog, Tumblr is presented in a linear fashion. It's basically presented in like a linear story fashion. It's top to bottom, and you read it as such. Technically, you kind of have to read backwards because, you know, new posts are at the front.
Well, actually, you can do something. I have
reverse
a
it.
button on my blog that you can reverse it, yeah.
Nice. That's more than some people do. But regardless, it's still presented in like a linear fashion, right? Where and on DeviantArt, you don't really have that option. It's folders and it's a gallery. It's just a place for you to post your work. It's more forum oriented, you know. Where Tumblr, it basically you can go to someone's blog and then you can be presented this, you know, like the story of Student of the Night or whatever, and you can read through it. It's like what is the Egophiliacs comic, Moonsuck? Like reading that on any other area, just it wouldn't be the same experience as reading it linearly. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's
and
like
also,
it's part experience and then part whatever.
yeah, and also the way that posts get spread around on Tumblr is very different from DeviantArt. I don't know how it works on DeviantArt. I mean, I know that you put things in groups, but beyond that, it's like I don't really know where these people come from. But on Tumblr, it's reblogs. You reblog something, you put it on your own blog, and all your followers see it. And then it just gets reblogged by them and spread around. And it's a little easier to get noticed with singular like moments. Like if you can make each entry in your comic be kind of self-contained and entertaining by itself, it will spread a lot better because people will just see this one comic and go, "Oh, that's funny, that's cute. What is this? This is interesting," and look at it. You know. Where you don't really have that on DeviantArt. On DeviantArt, it's kind of just a gallery, and if it's in a group, you'll go to the group's gallery. You have to search for things yourself on DeviantArt, where on Tumblr things come to you, I guess.
I feel like on DeviantArt it's a lot more on the viewer to put in some effort to find things, and on Tumblr you just kind of stumble into things, kind of.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah, there's
Equestria
definitely
Daily.
advantages and disadvantages because DeviantArt also has the aspect of a gallery, which is like a way to show off all of your stuff. Whereas on Tumblr, there's not an easy way to aggregate everything together
Actually,
in the
there
same
is.
kind of fashion.
There is actually. You can go to the archive and you can see a grid of every post on a blog.
Oh.
The archive's a nice feature.
The archive, I understand that there is the archive, but to me it's not a kind of a similar concept than DeviantArt, which is kind of like centered around the concept of individuality in terms of like, this is a person's page, it's unrelated to anybody else's page, whereas like you said, Tumblr is almost like more of a social media platform.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, each definitely has its purpose, I guess, in the art community. And we stick a lot to DeviantArt just because it's a little bit easier for us to find art that way for the show. But yeah,
DeviantArt's so useful for us because it's that concept of it's a gallery versus a blog, right? It's difficult for us to go to someone's blog and be like, all right, what is the cool stuff you have made? What is the best examples of your art that you've made? And if it's not your first blog post, I ain't gonna look through 10 pages through like the past 3 freaking years that they've been tumbling or whatever the heck, you know? But on DeviantArt, like I can go to their gallery, I can go to their featured, I can click all and I can click popular, and I can see everything that they have to offer. So like from someone who absorbs like a lot of art every single day and then tries to bring it to something like a show or whatever, like the gallery setting of DeviantArt is so easy in comparison to something like Tumblr, you know?
Yeah.
Speaking of a lot,
derailing
this.
I think just to not stray from the topic too far, I think one of the things as well is just the organization standpoint from DeviantArt is just a little bit different. And while I do complain a lot when DeviantArt does not give me control of pages, I also will state that Tumblr is more often it's harder to separate the art from everything else. Some people who do blogs are really good about it, you know, and they make specific blogs for specific things, and it's like, this is an art blog, all I'm going to do is post art. Some people do a combination where they do their own personal life stuff, and they reblog stuff, and they go for the art too, and it's a little bit harder to get organized. And much like MySpace, Tumblr gives people a little bit too much control with their pages, and you can do some pretty wacky, crazy stuff with it that'll immediately make you go, never again.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a Tumblr and just look at it and go, where do I click?
Yeah. There's a couple Tumblrs I can't figure out how the heck to follow people. Like, is there some kind of thing I type in, like Tumblr/follow this bloody person? Like, there's no follow button. It's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. Technically, if you hover over the top right, it'll let you follow. But like, it's not. It's a really
I gotta know to hover in the
because
corner where there's nothing there in my user interface.
DeviantArt gives you a lot of restriction, and it leads to organization. But Tumblr gives you not a lot of restriction, and it leads to a lot of creativity. It's just there's positives and negatives to both sides for sure. And I think it's really cool that they seem to coexist.
Have you ever messed around with DeviantArt's like formatting stuff and widgets and stuff?
Yes.
A little bit,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's
And
so
by mess around, you
hard.
mean move
Yeah.
one thing one
if you
place
mean
because that's all you're allowed to do.
infuriated by something because I can't put a moving GIF in it or whatever.
Well, I mean, like with the premium stuff where you can actually edit the code of the widgets and it breaks everything.
Really?
No, I've never done that.
I
I've just messed with the
It's-
widgets they've given me.
I've tried. I gave up.
Yeah.
My page was very broken for a few hours.
That's awesome.
So I think we should talk about some of your pieces that stood out to us, and obviously stood out to a lot of different people because they're really, really, really darn popular. So the very first one is your most popular piece to date, and it's called A War of the Centuries. It's a little animation of Luna and Celestia balls jumping back and forth and yelling sun and moon.
Mhm.
So what is this?
I actually know the story for this one.
Do you?
But go on, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at BabsCon, was it BabsCon? No. It was Everfree. Yeah, it was Everfree.
Yeah.
At Everfree Northwest in 2014, I was vending for my second time. And my table was across from this lady who was creating these plushies. And there were various different ones, but the two that stood out to me were these little blobs of Luna and Celestia. And they were just a little sphere with eyes and hair and a horn, and it was adorable. And I just had to buy them. They were my first plushies I ever bought, if I remember right. So I bought the Luna, and then I bought the Celestia, and I had them with me, and they're just adorable. And my friends loved them. Everyone loved them. And I was showing them to one of my friends, and he came up with this idea, and he was talking about the two of them jumping and yelling, sun and moon, and then I was in a live stream, and I just drew something, and then it just started to animate. That happens to me a lot. I just start drawing, and I draw another frame, and then another frame, then I go, wait a minute, why am I animating this? Why am I doing this to myself? And then I have an animation, and it looks decent.
Yeah.
The fun
So
part is
cute.
I actually got to meet that plushie creator at BronyCon later, and I showed them the animation. And they said, oh, that's cool, yeah, I saw that. And I said, yeah, you inspired this. And they went, really?
Well,
Yeah.
I just took a little picture because I don't remember if it's the same one who made the ones that you got and inspired this one, but when you told us that story at BronyCon, I remembered that I saw these little ball plushies around, and so I immediately went out and sought them out and bought myself a little ball Rainbow Dash.
Nice.
So I just took a picture of it, and I will send it in so you can show it while you're talking about that a little bit.
Nice.
And the plushie creator who made these balls also made the Applejack bat that I have that I bought at
Oh,
BronyCon.
yeah. Forgot about that.
I didn't buy anything at BronyCon ever.
Yes, and we've never stopped hearing about it.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really cute story. How do you go about animating things? I'm assuming you go frame by frame, basically.
Yeah, don't do it the way I did it, though. I did it in Photoshop, which is a bad idea. Only a masochist would do that.
I've done a couple in Photoshop.
Photoshop has the animation timeline feature, and it works okay, but it's a pain to do. But yeah, I did it frame by frame, and you just kind of manually hide layers and show layers and move between frames, and it's a pain, but it works, I guess. There are many better
there,
programs for it.
Is there onioning and stuff in Photoshop?
Not
or
built in, no. I had to do it manually.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's rough. That's really rough.
For those who don't know, onioning or onion layering is basically turning the opacity down in the previous frames so that you can draw the next frame kind of similar to the previous frame.
And sometimes the next frame, too.
Yeah. And Photoshop doesn't have that, so
No.
I'm so sorry.
It's really, really primitive.
Yeah. But speaking of animations, you've done quite a few more. So you have this one, which is absolutely adorable. And then you have one for your Student of the Night blog, which is also really adorable. And it's Luna reading to Scootaloo on a cloud with a star, shooting star, and yeah. Did you do the same process for this, basically, as well?
Boy, this one. Before I say anything else about this one, this picture, my computer hates this animation. This animation is 299 layers. A bunch of them have layer styles, and it's 9 frames, and my computer just freezes. Oh, it's also 8,000 pixels. My computer just freezes as soon as I open it every time.
Wow.
It was hard working on this thing at the end, because I couldn't zoom without it freezing for like 30 seconds.
Wow.
But yeah, it was the same process, all Photoshop, just a lot more detailed, obviously, and a lot more like shading and stuff. More frames, I think. But yeah, this picture was actually a scene from Student of the Night, where they were studying, because, you know, she's teaching her, she's the student. So they were studying history, and it was nighttime. Student of the Night. This picture was something that, when I first started developing the blog, I was doing a bunch of little sketches to figure out their personalities and stuff like that. And I drew this one where Luna was sitting there and reading a book or something, and Scootaloo was like leaned up against her, looking up at the stars and just amazed at it. And the idea was that Luna was teaching her history by moving the stars in the sky and showing her what was going on. So I had this idea, but I didn't like finish it at the time. I had in mind that I was going to actually put it in the story at some point and have it be a panel in the story. And months later, I don't remember how many months later, I finally got to a point in the story where it happened. And it had been so long in my head that by that point it had actually started to move. Like I couldn't think of the picture without seeing the hair moving and the moon floating around and the stars twinkling. So I had to animate it. And I think I did it all in 1 or 2 sittings. It was grueling, but I enjoyed it and I liked the result. I actually made a little video of it set with some music from My Neighbor Totoro.
Well, that's really cool. That's a great story.
Yeah,
Do you have any other pieces that in particular, you have good stories about?
Well, let's see. There was the one that I did in a charity live stream. I was there for, I think, 15 hours, and they were doing interviews of actual show staff and stuff with a bunch of us artists in the stream, just drawing requests for donators and things. And one of the things they did was the people being interviewed, they got 1 free request for sure, because there were so many people requesting we couldn't get to all of them. So they had Peter New on at one point, and he was on right before M.A. Larson, actually. And I was drawing some other thing, and Peter New requested this picture of Big Mac talking to M.A. Larson saying, nope, while they're showing Big Mac with wings, Princess Big Mac. So I started drawing it, and I think Peter New's interview ended, but then he stayed, and M.A. Larson started to be interviewed, so they were both there being interviewed, watching the live stream, and all of a sudden Peter New notices, wait a minute, is that my request being drawn? And then he's like, oh, I love it, and then he asked for me to add the hats and stuff, and so that was really cool. I got to draw a request for Peter New in front of him and M.A. Larson. That was cool. I want to make
I do love the hat stack.
Well, the thing was, he had a donation incentive, where if people donated more than some amount, he would put on a hat for every, I think it was $100. And he ended up getting so many hats it went up to the ceiling.
Nice.
That's great.
I know at Everfree Northwest 2 years ago, we got to basically walk around the vendor hall with Peter New, and there were people were kind of handing him gifts as he walked by, and there were quite a few pieces of Princess Big Mac that he got.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Peter New's a really nice guy. I'm not sure. Have you met him in person or seen him at all?
I've walked behind him at a con, but I haven't really talked to him.
He's a really cool guy. There's a lot of the show staff are really down to earth, and that's one of the really nice things that I like about them. When I was going off to BronyCon, I got the opportunity to sit on the same flight as most of the guests who went to this last BronyCon, and the person that I went up to and talked to first when I saw them at the airport was Peter New, because we did walk him around, and he recognized me, and he was super nice about it. And every single time we saw him during the weekend, he was always sure to come over and say hi. So. I mean, he is such a great guy in general.
Yeah, he seemed like a really nice guy.
So you should totally get him a print of this.
I'm planning on it. I'm planning on it.
He's coming to BronyCon.
Yeah.
So you had a couple of other ones here. I remember one of them in particular you were mentioning was this interesting concept of a Fluttershy piece that you started doing a little bit of world building on.
Yeah. So I was doing a live stream, because that's one thing you'll notice about me. I live stream a lot while I do my art. It's pretty fun to do. It's good for motivation, and it's fun. And I remember thinking, I want to draw a pony in armor. And I don't remember where I was at that point in my art, but I just sat down and started to draw a pony in armor, and it turned into Fluttershy, and then she was on a floating island, and it was oh, this is kind of like Bastion, and then she had a spear, and then there was a bird on her wing, and as I was making this picture, I over the, I think, 3 or 4 hours, I just started to develop this story of what was going on. That I'd started off with, I want a pony in armor, to this idea that Fluttershy is in an alternate reality where the world isn't so happy and there's war and stuff, and she's found a bird and having some sort of connection with the other Fluttershy in the other universe, and all this interesting world building. Someone actually wrote a fanfic about it.
That's cool.
All from, I want to do a pony in armor. And it's just really interesting how sometimes the concept for a picture is found as you're making it. And sometimes you start off with just random ideas that don't mean anything, and you finish with something that's really cool and sticks with you. And I think it's actually more personal that way than when you sit down with concept at the beginning, because it's a journey to find the concept while you're making the art, instead of trying to get to a destination, if that makes sense. It's kind of getting really high concept, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So did this kind of story form as you were working on a specific part of the piece, like on a specific undersketch or whatever, or did it like kind of evolve as you were working on the piece overall? Like each time you added a layer or whatever, did it kind of grow?
I'm not sure. Possibly around the time I added the weapon or the bird, probably, or when the story started to develop. But I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Because it was
So it's
very
interesting.
gradual.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see like what inspired what in a particular piece of art. Which is why it's so cool watching art streams, especially of like experienced artists, because they'll kind of change things up in the middle and be like, oh no, I want it to be like this.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me when you watch like a speed painting or something, and it's like, oh man, that's starting to look really awesome, and it's like and then just like completely delete or or mess up an entire area, like I was watching LoxTO and she just like really wipes out like a face of Rainbow Dash. She's like, this is bad, you gotta put a new one here. Why?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up that piece. LoxTO did a piece of Rainbow Dash like flying with big ears, which are really fluffy. And in her like speed painting of it, like halfway through, just the entire thing deleted.
Just redo it.
Yeah,
That's one thing. Someone gave me some advice when I first started drawing, and it has stuck with me for a long time. And they basically said that if you're unhappy with how something you're drawing is turning out, start over, because you'll almost always do better the second time. I mean, yeah, it feels like a waste of time, and it feels like you're killing your baby, but it's not really. You're just, you learned something while you made mistakes, and now you're starting over with those mistakes in mind. It's better than toiling away at something for hours trying to tweak it to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Just start over.
My painting teacher would say nothing is sacred, was always his motto.
Yeah, it's giving you a new perspective too, because like sometimes you really just need to look at things from a different angle.
Sometimes literally, sometimes just draw it from a different angle, and that helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
So speaking of Rainbow Dash, one of the things that I got from BronyCon, other than the great experiences, was I actually got a print from you, and it was a Rainbow Dash print. And I think the cool thing about this is, as we were talking about the Fluttershy one, it reminded me of this, where less so in the world building, but more so in the kind of iterative creation, and this one, it has multiple versions over time, right?
Yeah. I started off doing the newbie artist training grounds for Equestria Daily. I did every day, I think, if I remember right. This one, I started off with some version. I think it's linked in the description on there.
Yep.
Yeah, all versions are there. I started off with it. It looked pretty cool. It was neat. It was dynamic. It was fun. It was interesting. It was a little step above most of my work. Sometimes you draw something and it's like, this is better than what I usually draw. This feels good. But the colors were really bland and it just didn't feel so good in like the colors specifically. So I came back to it, I think, the next day, and I overhauled a lot of it, and it looked a lot better and it was cool. And then months later, I was making prints for conventions, and I sat down and I pretty much remade the whole thing. I redrew all the lines, I changed all the colors, I added a background, I did some visual effects, and it came out a lot better for it. And you can still tell that it's the same picture, but it was made a lot later. And it's kind of interesting because it shows in my gallery in like the wrong place because I first posted it when it was the original version. So it looks like I was so much better for one day and then I got worse again.
That's funny. Well, I think it's really good, and the cool thing to me is that I think it definitely stands out in terms of like the level of polish that you've put on it. I think sometimes it's hard when you make a blog post every single day, and so sometimes it's a little bit quicker or sketchier, and some artists are afraid to put it up, and it's because you don't often get to see these kind of polished pieces. And this one really stands out to me because of its level of polish and its level of quality, which is when I saw it as a print, it was like, wow, I gotta have that.
Yeah, polish is something I struggle with. every now and then it just happens and it looks good. But a lot of the time I struggle with forcing myself to sit down and actually work on something until it's nice and polished and clean.
Right. Well, speaking of polish, we've got probably what at least I consider, and I don't know about anybody else, but personally my favorite one that you have ever made. It's called Bloom of the Moon's Light, and speaking of polish, this one has got amazing polish. And the coolest thing personally for me that I saw was this picture looks great online, and it looks about 10 times better as a print. Like, it looks spectacular as a print.
And I can say this is my favorite of my works too, actually, so
Yeah.
I'm glad we're talking about it. And actually, my printer who printed stuff for me for conventions printed it off on metallic paper. Have you guys ever seen prints of metallic paper before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so shiny and purple, and I love it. It's beautiful.
Well, maybe I have. I'm not sure. Did you print off all your other stuff at BronyCon in metallic paper?
No, it was a single copy just for me.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's
Well,
awesome.
no, I haven't seen that before. I'm
Yeah, it's a
kind
lot
of
more
jealous
expensive. So yeah.
Yeah.
I bet. Well, maybe you'll have to. You know what you should do? You should get one of those per con, and then have like an auction on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Someone talked to me about doing, the guy that does the ties, he talked to me about doing it on actual metal. Like, I don't remember exactly how he
that'd be
described it,
cool.
but it was like on aluminum, and he said the colors would look amazing on that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That'd be really cool.
So, I mean, talk to us about this piece a little bit. Like, what started this piece? How did it get to this point? I mean, so good.
This picture was actually before Lunadoodle, very shortly before Lunadoodle. I was still very obsessed with Luna. I'd learned about this thing called the moonflower, which is a flower that blooms at night, I believe. And it's this really interesting looking blue flower that in the day when it's not bloomed, it's all swirly and kind of weird. And at night it's beautiful. I don't remember what kind of flower it looks like. I don't know flowers. So I wanted to paint it. And I drew Luna with a moonflower. And interestingly, I remember this picture. I was working on it, and it wasn't feeling right. It wasn't working like I wanted it to, and it just wasn't coming along like I was hoping it would. And then I just kept working on it, and kept working on it. I think I worked on it in 3 sittings, and finally it got to a point where it's now my favorite piece I've ever made, and it's one of the most popular too.
Yeah.
But I think, the moonflower is the main thing that inspired it. But I think part of it was that I determined I wanted to sit down and focus on one picture, because I mentioned before I struggle with polish a lot of the time, and this time I want to sit down and I want to polish this thing. I want to work on it. And I did, and it was fun, and I should do that more often.
Yeah. There's something really interesting seeing how far you can kind of push yourself. Because I used to be, an artist hobbyist just for a couple of years doing vector stuff. And I know, one of the last things that I did was I sat down and I did this big extravagant piece that took 20 hours over a couple of weeks. And so I definitely get that feeling, and there's this huge level of accomplishment that you get afterwards. And sometimes I get the feeling, I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I ever do that? Like, that just doesn't make sense. It's a different person,
Definitely.
Yeah. And I feel like
it's really good. I'd recommend anybody do that at least once. You'll get that itch, and you got to scratch it. You got to go for it.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sure this piece must have taken a long time to do. And like you said, Rainbow Plasma, your extravagant vector took a while too. So it's not like something that I'm sure you do very often.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Especially having to run a daily Luna doodle blog. But like, I agree that like, if you get the chance to do something that like pushes your skills, it's very satisfying.
Well, the fun thing about it is if you do it, and if you even sort of pull it off, you'll get faster. Every time you do it, you'll get faster at it next time, because you've learned what didn't work and what did work, and you'll skip the things that didn't work.
You've done it
and
before.
Start off with things that did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can try doing other new things.
I had a question on that one. The one that we're talking about now, you said it took like forever, over a couple of days.
Yeah.
How do you sort of do a little bit? Like, what do you do? Do you do like the undersketch one day and then basic coloring the next day and then shading the next day and then finishing? Or do you do some this day and some that day and some that day. How do you do that?
Well, I don't remember all of it exactly because this was a little while ago, almost a year ago. But I do remember one of the stages that I left it off was, I think, the second working session. I had solid colors. So, like, I was actually going for a very different style with this picture. I was going to go with, like, that lineless kind of paper look to it. And so I had these flat colors, and they just weren't working. It didn't look good at all. And I remember I was really frustrated. It wasn't working, and I was getting frustrated with it, and I was done. So I put it down, and then I think a couple of days later, the next day, I don't remember how long, I came back to it, and I caved, and I went, okay, fine, I'll paint it. Because at that point, painting felt really tedious, and it felt like the ultimate art style that is unattainable. So I caved, I sat down, and I started painting, and hours later, it came out, and it was like, oh, that actually worked, and I actually like how it looked. But I think, if I remember right, I broke it up the first time I did just a sketch, because I was probably busy that day. And then the second day, I did the solid colors, which took me a while, and because I was experimenting, trying to fix it, none of the directions I was going in were working. And then I put it down, came back to it, and then I worked on it more until I finished it.
All right, that's cool. I've done one of those big extravagant things that takes forever as well, and I find it really hard to come back to it a second day and then continue where you left off, I think.
Yeah.
I look at this and I go, this is nothing like what I want. What am I doing? And I have to fight the urge to start again.
Yeah.
How do you... Yeah, and it blows my mind that people can work on. A vector is one thing because it's all, you sort of have a plan and et cetera, you're going from something else and whatever. But a painting like this where you're still coming from sort of nothing, it's incredible to me that you can just keep going like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I really like the lighting in this one as well. Like, it looks like you just had a lot of fun with it, putting little... I don't know, I assume fireflies everywhere glowing and everything. Because there's so many things glowing on other things. Like, you have the cyan lighting and then the yellow lighting, and everything's reflecting on something else.
That blorange.
Yay, blorange.
Hey!
Welcome to the CAC.
You're one of us
lighting,
now.
Get up. Speaking of lighting, I wanted to talk about this one, which is completely different to that one. It's called... Dancing on Sunshine. This was another request in that charity stream, I think.
Yep, that's right. I think the request... What was the request? I forget how it was worded exactly, but they wanted Luna dancing on the sunshine. And so I drew it. If I remember right, I was in the live stream, and I wanted to draw more Luna, and no one was requesting Luna. And I just casually mentioned something in the call, and then some donators started asking for Luna stuff. So then I drew this.
Nice. I mean, how could they know that you're in the stream and not request Luna? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Because this style is so different from the last piece that we looked at, and then you even have more different styles. Like, for instance, there's this piece, Luna Doodle number 69.
That one. Yeah.
Yes,
I know them by number.
Yeah. Which is it's a completely different style again. Do you kind of go into a piece saying, okay, I'm going to experiment and I'm going to try this style, or do you kind of develop it as you're going along with that piece?
Well, I don't know that it's quite one or the other. For the request, that one was kind of a quote-unquote default style. I did some experimentation, so it's not like I just, didn't do anything new. But for the most part, I just did the same stuff that I always do, the stuff I was comfortable with, which that's not a bad thing. It's just it was a request to do it quickly, make it look decent, and that's fine. My goal wasn't to experiment. My goal was to make a picture that they liked. And I did try some new things, and I learned some stuff. So for that one, I sat down and I just started drawing, whatever I normally draw. But for Luna Doodle 69, that one, I think if I remember right, I was in a live stream, a multi-stream, with Assassin Monkey, I think it was. And I had finished everything I needed to work on, but I didn't want to stop streaming because it was fun. So I put down like a blob of blue, and then over 6 hours that turned into a Luna. And it was all an experiment. None of it was anything I'd done before. It was actually sort of informed by some things I'd seen Monkey do in his stream with like the facial structure and stuff. So sometimes I'll go into it with an experiment, and sometimes I'll go into it with like the idea of making a finished picture. And oftentimes that's what I do for a commission or something. But Lunadoodle is a great way to do that kind of experimenting, because every day you have to make something new. So every day it gets boring if you draw the same way every day. So you got to try something new.
Yeah. It's interesting too, just kind of going through your Lunadoodles, because you can definitely see on the days when you did try something new or you kind of experimented with the style a little bit, because even if it's just a little tweak from your normal style, it makes it very interesting.
I try to keep varied because I don't want to be in a box just making one kind of art.
Yeah.
Except, you made a Luna Tumblr.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
You wanna pick your boxes.
I like my moon box.
Since
Very
we're
comfy box.
linking Lunadoodles, I was gonna link that one really quick. Just because I just one I liked. It was on my list of ones that are pieces I like in your gallery, and it feels like another painting piece. And I just really like how you painted that one recently. Just like the colors in it. I feel like out of all the more, I don't know, painty, like digital painty pieces in your gallery, it's one of my favorites.
This one actually does have a bit of an interesting story. This was very recent. I did that, I think, a week ago. I don't know if you guys heard about the whole thing with live streaming it being taken down and stuff. I was live streaming and I wanted to see what happened. I was testing some stuff and I was just kind of doodling in the background while I was live streaming. And it wasn't going to be anything. I was just going to do a bunch of random ugly Luna faces. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And then I just kept drawing and painting. And a few hours later, this happened. I'd been meaning to experiment with ways of painting her hair because it gets kind of boring just copying the show, but in 3 dimensions. And I wanted to do that whole like nebula, space-y, really colorful stuff. So I did that, and I manually did it all with hard round, and it was a lot of fun. And I liked the colors, and it was basically those 3 colors just kind of mixed around.
Yeah, and then more reflective lighting, which is great, and the constellations too. There was in that animation that we showed earlier. You had the constellations kind of glowing as well. I like that touch. I like that as well.
They're so easy to make.
I love how well cyan and magenta go together, especially like in a celestial kind of setting.
We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I got 1 or 2 things that I want to bring up. Okay. This one here, which is completely different to everything else that we've looked at today. Rather than being like black space, dark time Luna, this is white, very, very white and light, which is awesome.
Oh, it's 60 by 9 too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Good boy.
Yeah, this one, I didn't really have a lot of thought put into going into this one. I just wanted to draw Luna in a cute little fur coat, and I did. I gave her the cute little blushies and stuff. But yeah, I did the white to kind of mimic like a blizzard kind of effect, and I think it worked.
I like the breath.
Yeah.
And the other one that I want to bring up, because I'd be shunned if I didn't, is this one, because space.
Yes.
Space.
Space. Yeah, that one's one of my favorites, but it's not all that popular, really. This one, I was doing a live stream just like any other day, and I happened to stream for longer than usual, and I got to, I think, 15 hours, and then a friend was like, oh, you should do 24 hours, jokingly. And then I was like, okay, sure. So at the end of 24 hours, I'd been live streaming for 24 hours straight, and I stayed awake for almost 2 whole days. I think this was the first picture I worked on during that live stream, and I think I spent several hours just working on the line art, just kind of poking at it, tired, almost about to pass out. And then I started to wake up again, and I started to paint it. And yeah, I actually really liked how it turned out. And this was another one that I revisited later. I came back to it for printing again, and I changed the way that the space looked because it looked really ugly before. I changed some of the colors, I removed a part of the spaceship, and I added that, like, galactic center in the background.
And is that you staying up for 2 days straight the reason why there is a portal core on the moon?
That is my live stream. There's more than just that on the moon, too. I won't say what else is there because of the rating of this stream, but there's something else on the moon.
On that note, so we're getting up to the point of the show where we're winding down, and we want to make sure that people who have enjoyed hearing about you and want to learn more about you can go and check you out. So, I know that we didn't get time to talk about it, but you've done other collaborations and stuff. I think you were doing some stuff with Lyra Man X, and you did a panel that we recorded at BronyCon. So there's a bunch of stuff out there, but if people wanted to find you online, where would they find you?
Actually, I have a website. It's a little hard to say over speech, so I don't know. You can probably edit it to show it on screen.
Sure.
But it's just it's just DarkFlame, like darkfla.me. So it's
Okay.
that clever URL thing. And I have links to everything. I think I don't have a link to Lunadoodle there, but so I have a link to everything, and then there's also lunadoodle.tumblr.com or darkflame75.deviantart.com or darkflame7.tumblr.com. Or finally, studentofthenight.tumblr.com. I'm a little spread out.
And Picardo for streaming and stuff.
Right, which is just Darkflame on Picardo.
Yeah. But yeah, you could probably find all of those links at darkflay.me.
Yep.
Darkflame!
And also fans of Darkflame watching and listening to this somewhat recently, are you planning on going to any conventions this year?
Yes, I am confirmed for BabsCon. I need to pay for my table still, but I'm confirmed. And I have applied for a table at Everfree, BronyCon, and TrotCon.
Right, awesome. Hopefully I get to see you at all of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to PonyCon. You should come to that one.
Get me a plane
It's in
ticket.
my hometown.
Bam.
If you
The
fly him
gauntlet
out.
has been thrown, my friend. Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, well, I hope to see you at BronyCon again. It was great. I know you invited us out to dinner, and we had a great time with you there. So it was really nice of you to do
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
That was great. That was that after your panel? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was immediately after the panel, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Burn. Was it Burn? No, it was Rainbow Plasma said just recently. Wow, my short-term memories.
Nice to meet you. My name is Max.
You were on an artist panel. You can check that out on our YouTube channel because we recorded the whole thing, and it was very informative, very
No,
fun.
you'll see my face. No.
Or you'll see it right here in this
Here's
picture
pictures of
you.
Darkflame's face on the show.
You should just put up his OC so people think he's a horse.
that picture of my OC
Wait,
saying
never.
never sleep.
All right. Well, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
And now that we've done your plugs, which, by the way, just side note, I like the fact that you have a website. I like the fact that you have one place that you can go that redirects you to everything else. It's got a good URL. I approve. You're a man who knows organization, and I like it.
I have approval. Yay.
Yay!
I don't know if you want his approval.
So
Oh, okay.
before we move on to plugs, Bernd has something to say. Apparently, I have no what.
What? Oh.
No, I have
Yeah,
something to
Flutterguy
say.
has an ending question.
Okay.
There are way too many Lunas in this piece.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Never
guess
too many
as
Lunas.
a final question to Darkflame, is there actually such a thing as too many Lunas?
No, there's not.
You heard it here, folks.
Well, there you go. Confirmed. Confirmed.
That is adorable.
All right.
Never enough
Oh,
Luna.
that's okay. That's that flash game with the ponies.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So
If
now
you're
that
gonna
you've done
shoot
your
when they
plugs,
reproduce.
we need to do ours. So Joel, do you mind throwing up the plugs?
We have
you
a
have a stroke.
DeviantArt account, which you probably know about, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We have a Tumblr, which is cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com, and a Twitter, which is @cutieartcrusader, and a Facebook. We're on there. I don't know if we have a URL for that, just facebook.com/cutieartcrusaders maybe. We have match.com, all that sort of stuff. Email, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com, and
The
we
match.com
have
comes
a
before the email? Really?
Picardo stream, google.com, and then search for Cutie Art Crusaders on Picardo because Picardo URLs are dumb.
Also, youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders to go
All right.
and watch these
I
episodes.
think I did that one.
I don't know if you did. I just wanted to throw it in there.
I got lost in the Match.com one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. That is everything for this week. Once again, just wanted to give big shout out to Darkflame. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being such an awesome guy, both on here and in person.
We love you and your face.
Thank you for having me.
Specifically your face.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just
okay.
the facial region, you know.
And your drawing hand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And once again, thank you so much for teaching us and everyone else who has seen that picture, that video of how to draw Luna.
You
Yeah, no
teaching us how to draw ponies then, like, inspired us to draw ponies, and, like, it's still kind of tumbled into me still drawing ponies now. Like, I probably wouldn't have been sketching ponies otherwise.
Nice
very
part.
good.
You
I'm glad
guys
to hear
want
that.
to it.
I'm glad to inspire people.
Senpai, please.
So,
Senpai will never
that
notice
is
you.
everything for this week of the Cutie Art Crusaders. Join us again next week when we don't have a guest next week, do we, Bernd?
Maybe.
Yeah, you don't know.
It's a wild roller coaster
Surprise!
ride for literally everyone at the Cutie Art Crusaders. So, without further ado, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I don't love you as much as Darkflame.
Say your name!
My name's Bernd.
I'm Flutterguy317.
I'm Atmos Spark.
And I'm Darkflame.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Moon.
Goodbye. Moon.
Sun.
Moon.
Sun.